Hello and welcome back. I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're watching another Sydney Direct. Disinflation and slow growth are just two of the issues facing South Korea's economy. But could this force the central bank to act at its next policy meeting and join that snowballing central bank contagion? My guest for today's show is Matthew Circosta of Moody's Analytics. Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
Okay, so we're talking South Korea, and today unemployment data has come out. How does this fit in with your outlook for the South Korean economy at present?
Yeah, I think the data came out pretty well today. The unemployment rate fell to 3.4% in January. On the surface, that looks quite healthy, but when you look at it from a longer run trend, the unemployment rate is still above the neutral rate of 3%. And even though the economy is adding jobs, a lot of these jobs are temporary and are being filled by older workers. So that leaves them vulnerable to job losses if the market turns down. Overall, what that suggests to me is that the economy is growing below trend. It continues to face pressure from the domestic and external environment. And that certainly leaves pressure on the Bank of Korea to cut rates again.
Now, despite a pretty solid CPI number in January, disinflation still does remain a concern to the South Korean economy. Can you expand on this a little bit for us?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a slump in oil prices, and that's been holding inflation down across the globe, and Korea's certainly been no exception. I think, outside of oil prices, the economy continues to grow quite weakly, and that's keeping prices down in the domestic market. And I think overall, that leaves the Bank of Korea with the chance to leave rates lower for longer or push them down if it deems necessary.
Now, how vulnerable is South Korea to sort of global sentiment at present, and how does that translate into won performance?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it back in 2013 with the taper tantrum when the US was, there was a lot of speculation about US rate hikes. The Korean markets performed quite poorly. Now, although the Korean economy has solid macro and financial fundamentals, as in government debt is low, the external balance is in surplus, Korea is still vulnerable to shifts in global sentiment. It is a highly liquid market, and therefore if there tends to be another shock, let's say it's in Greece, for example, a flare-up in the Eurozone, then we expect that the won would depreciate in that scenario.
You've touched upon already that pressure on the Central Bank of South Korea to act in their policy meeting coming up next week. Is it possible that they could do at that meeting?
I think so. I mean, we've seen 16 central banks already this year cut interest rates or ease monetary settings. I think that puts a lot of pressure on the Bank of Korea to do that as well. Now, we saw them cut rates earlier in 2014, so they've began the cycle already. But with the economy growing below trend, inflation low, and the unemployment rate still above the neutral rate, that certainly puts pressure on the Bank of Korea to cut again, yes.
Matthew, thank you very much for your comments. This is certainly a story we're going to continue to watch. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie.
That is all we've got time for right now. But as always, our thanks go to the team at Moody's Analytics for their comments today. Do stay tuned, as I'll be back shortly with plenty more exclusive interviews right here from Sydney, Australia. For now, though, it's goodbye.